The envelope
Please
was
don't
already
close the
open
door.
when I found it
I
on
don't
the kitchen
understand
table,
why you're doing this, but you
beside a
have to let me
half-burnt
in.
birthday candle
Please.
and a mug of coffee my father hadn't finished. It was raining that morning, steady gray rain that made the whole house feel older than it was. I stood in the doorway for a few seconds, looking at the envelope before I looked at either of them. My father sat at the head of the table, hands folded, expression already decided. My sister Claire sat to his left, both palms around her mug. She wasn't smiling. That almost made it worse. She looked nervous, like someone waiting for a punishment she had helped arrange. My father pushed the envelope toward me with 2 fingers. "You need to be out by the end of the month," he said. No happy birthday, no explanation first, just that. I looked at him, then at Claire. Out? My father leaned back. "The house belongs to Claire now. She needs stability. You've been here long enough." Claire lowered her eyes into her coffee. Her thumb moved once along the rim of the mug, quick and anxious, but she said nothing. That was when I understood she knew. Maybe not everything, maybe not the full damage, but enough. I opened the envelope and read the first page. Legal notice, 30 days. My name, Daniel Mercer, printed under the address of the house I had spent 7 years keeping alive. The house where my mother had died. The house whose mortgage had almost collapsed after her hospital bills. The house I had given up my apartment, weekends, savings, sleep, and half my 30s to protect. Because my father once told me, "Family is all we have, son." I didn't realize it then, but that sentence had never been a promise. It had been a leash. I should have seen it coming. There had been signs. There are always signs. But when you love people, you rename the signs until they sound less dangerous. You call manipulation stress. You call selfishness grief. You call cruelty a bad day. My father, Howard Mercer, had always been difficult, but after my mother died, difficult became permanent. He stopped asking for help and started expecting it. Bills disappeared into drawers. Calls from banks were ignored until they became threats. My sister Claire cried at the funeral like she had lost the whole world, then left for Atlanta 2 days later with a boyfriend none of us trusted and didn't come home for 11 months. I stayed. At 29, I moved back into my childhood bedroom, temporarily. Within months, I was paying utilities. Within a year, I found the mortgage notices hidden under old takeout menus. 4 months behind. Property taxes unpaid. Credit cards bleeding interest from medical debt my father refused to discuss. I didn't save the house in one grand heroic gesture. I saved it the most exhausting way possible. Overtime shifts, payment plans, insurance calls, patched gutters, one emergency roof repair, and a secured loan I took in my own name because Dad's credit was already ruined. The loan officer, Mrs. Alvarez, asked me twice if I understood what I was signing. "This obligation remains attached to you unless formally refinanced or released," she said. I nodded, because back then I believed responsibility was proof of love. I thought if I carried enough weight, someone would eventually notice my back breaking. They noticed. They just got comfortable. For years, the house ran because I ran under it like machinery nobody wanted to see. My father told relatives I lacked ambition because I still lived at home. Claire joked at Thanksgiving that I was lucky I never had to build a real life. I stood at the sink washing plates and said nothing. Silence was my habit. Not peaceful silence, survival silence. The kind you learn when every argument becomes your fault before it reaches the second sentence. Then, 3 weeks before my birthday, Claire came home early for dinner. Claire was never early. She brought expensive wine even though she had recently asked Dad for money. She sat beside him instead of across from him. When I stepped out to take a work call, their voices dropped. When I came back, the room went quiet too fast. "Everything okay?" I asked. Claire smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We were just talking about the future." Later that night, Dad asked where I kept the insurance documents. 2 days after that, he wanted copies of Mom's death certificate. Then Claire began asking questions that pretended to be casual. "If something happened to Dad, what happens to the house? Is your name actually on anything? Do banks care who really paid for stuff?" She laughed after that last one, but the laugh was thin. A week before my birthday, she texted me at 11:43 p.m. "Are you okay here, Danny?" I stared at the message because it was the first gentle thing she had asked me in years. Before I could answer, another message appeared. "Never mind. Dad says you're fine." Then a third. "Just don't make things dramatic if changes happen, okay?" I should have understood then. But love makes you late to obvious places. So when my father handed me eviction papers on my birthday, something inside me went still. Not calm, not brave, just still. Like the part of me that always rushed to explain, defend, fix, forgive, and understand had finally stepped back and refused to work. "This doesn't have to be ugly," Dad said. "Claire and Mason need a fresh start." Mason was Claire's boyfriend, a man with perfect teeth, vague employment, and a talent for calling my father sir in a way Dad found respectful and I found rehearsed. "A fresh start," I repeated. Dad nodded. "And frankly, Daniel, you're almost 40. It's time you stood on your own 2 feet." I looked at the man whose debts I had hidden from the world so his pride could survive. Then I looked at Claire. For half a second, guilt crossed her face. Real guilt. Human guilt. The kind that could have become courage if she had fed it. "Danny," she whispered. Dad shot her one look. She stopped. That hurt more than a smile would have. I folded the papers back into the envelope. "I'll be gone before 30 days, I said. Dad blinked. Claire did too. People who expect you to collapse don't know what to do when you simply leave. Upstairs, my hands finally started shaking. I sat on the edge of the bed I had slept in as a teenager, surrounded by old trophies, work shirts, storage boxes, and the life I had put on hold for people who had just called me temporary. Under the bed was a file box. I pulled it out and opened it. Loan documents, tax receipts, insurance letters, repair invoices, payment confirmations. 7 years of proof. And suddenly, Mrs. Alvarez's voice came back to me. "This obligation remains attached to you unless formally refinanced or released." I didn't know exactly what it meant yet, but I knew enough not to speak. I didn't argue. I didn't warn them. I didn't explain the paperwork they should have asked about before taking the house. I just started packing. I took only what was mine: clothes, books, my laptop, Mom's old watch, a shoebox of photos, and my tools. I left behind the microwave I bought, the washer I financed, the lawnmower I repaired twice, the curtains I hung, the chairs I paid for, the shelves I built. Each item hurt, but I refused to give them one more performance of pain. That evening, Claire stood in my doorway with her arms folded. "You're being weirdly calm," she said. "I'm packing. Dad's worried you'll do something." Like what? I don't know. Make things difficult? I almost laughed. I had spent 7 years making things easier. That had been my entire mistake. Claire looked down the hallway, then back at me. I didn't ask him to do it like this. There it was. Not apology, not innocence, just distance from the ugliest part of something she still wanted. But you accepted it, I said. Her face tightened. I need a place, Daniel. So did I. She flinched. For a moment, I saw the sister who used to crawl into my room during thunderstorms when we were kids. Then the adult version returned, defensive and cornered. If you had moved on with your life, maybe Dad wouldn't feel like he had to help me. The guilt had lasted less than a minute. I picked up another mug and wrapped it in newspaper. Congratulations on the house, Claire. The next morning, I went to the county records office. The clerk wore red reading glasses and had the tired patience of someone who had watched families destroy each other through paperwork for decades. I requested the property file for 1846 Ridgemont Lane. Dad had signed a quitclaim deed 6 weeks earlier, transferring his interest in the property to Claire. Not selling it, giving it. Claire's name was now on the title. My name was nowhere, which wasn't surprising. I had never asked for it to be. That was how loyal I had been. Loyal enough to pay, humble enough not to protect myself. But beneath the transfer were the liens, a home equity line, a tax repayment agreement, a municipal repair issue, and my secured renovation loan, still recorded against the property because the balance remained. My signature, my payment history, my obligation, their new asset. I sat at the public records table under fluorescent lights, listening to a copier hum behind me, and felt the first quiet shift of power. A younger version of me would have called Dad immediately. He would have explained, softened, warned, rescued. But the man sitting there had just been evicted on his birthday. So I paid for certified copies, walked out into the rain, and called Mrs. Alvarez. She still worked at the bank. Daniel Mercer, she said after I gave my name. I remember you. That almost broke me, because sometimes strangers remember your sacrifice more clearly than family does. I explained the transfer, the eviction, the loan. There was a long silence. Then papers rustled. Have you been released from the loan? She asked. No. Has the property been refinanced? Not that I know of. Did you authorize anyone to assume responsibility? No. Another pause. Daniel, you need an attorney, immediately, and do not discuss this with your father or sister until you have counsel. That afternoon, I sat across from Marcus Bell, a real estate attorney with silver hair and the calm of a man who didn't need to raise his voice because documents did it for him. He read everything, slowly, carefully. Your father transferred the house to your sister subject to existing encumbrances, he said. That means she may own it, but she owns it with everything attached. If she tries to refinance, sell, insure, or ignore it, the obligations surface. Depending on the loan terms, the transfer may trigger review or default provisions. My stomach tightened. So, what do I do? Marcus looked at me over the papers. Move out, redirect your mail. Stop managing the household. Keep records. Do not threaten them. Do not help them informally. Let formal notices do what formal notices do. So I just walk away? No, he said. You stop carrying what was never only yours. I moved out 8 days later. My new apartment was above a bakery on the other side of town. The floors slanted, the radiator hissed like it was haunted, and the kitchen was so small I had to open the oven sideways. But the first night I slept there, nobody knocked on my door asking if I had paid a bill. Nobody sighed because dinner wasn't ready. Nobody reminded me family was everything while treating me like nothing. I sat on a mattress on the floor, eating takeout noodles from the carton, and for the first time in years, silence did not feel like punishment. It felt like air. Claire called twice that first week. Her first voicemail was soft. "Hey, Danny, I know this is hard. I hope you're okay." Her second came an hour later, sharper. "Where's the insurance folder? Dad says you moved stuff. You can't take documents that belong to the house." I forwarded both to Marcus. He told me not to respond unless necessary. So I didn't. I changed my mailing address. I canceled automatic payments for accounts in my name. I notified the insurance company I no longer lived at the property and was not the owner. I gave the bank my updated contact information. No speeches, no revenge posts, no driveway confrontation. Just signatures, certified mail, and silence. The first crack came through a text. "Why is the electric company asking for a deposit?" For years, my payment history had made the account safe. Without me, the household looked like risk. 3 days later. "Did you cancel the internet?" The account was mine, so yes, I had. Then Dad called. I watched his name light up my phone and felt the old reflex rise like a trained dog. Answer. Fix it. Apologize for being hard to reach. Explain gently so nobody gets upset. I turned the phone face down. His voicemail came through a minute later. "Daniel, this nonsense has gone far enough. Claire can't access half the accounts because apparently you set them up. You need to come by tomorrow and sort it out." Sort it out. That was the family phrase for absorb the consequences. The real explosion happened on a Thursday evening, just as the bakery downstairs was closing and the hallway smelled like warm bread and rain. Someone knocked hard on my apartment door. Not a polite knock, a family knock, the kind that assumes access. I opened it with the chains still on. Claire stood there in a beige coat, her hair damp, carrying a canvas tote bag like she expected to leave with something. She looked thinner than she had on my birthday. Not humbled, not yet, but fear had worn her down. "I need the house folder," she said. "You should contact your attorney." "Don't do that." Her eyes flicked past me into the apartment, the small table, the half-unpacked boxes, the cheap lamp on the floor. For a second, shame crossed her face. Then she buried it. "Daniel, please. Dad's losing it. The bank keeps sending letters. Insurance says they need documentation. Mason says there's no reason you should be holding anything back." "Mason doesn't own my documents." "Documents for the house belong to the house." "Documents I signed belong to me." Her voice cracked. "You're punishing us." Before I could answer, my phone rang on the kitchen counter. I glanced back. Mrs. Alvarez. Claire saw the name. "Is that the bank?" she asked, suddenly smaller. I answered. "This is Daniel." Mrs. Alvarez's voice was careful. "Mr. Mercer, compliance has completed the review. Because the property transfer occurred without release or refinance of the secured obligation, the current owner will need to address the outstanding lien position immediately if she intends to retain the property." Claire went completely still. "Current owner?" she whispered. I said nothing. Mrs. Alvarez continued. "Your attorney has been copied. We also need confirmation that you are no longer residing at the collateral address and did not authorize assumption of the debt by the new owner. Correct, I said. Claire's fingers tightened around the tote bag. Debt? She whispered. What debt? I kept my eyes on her, but spoke into the phone. Please send everything through Mr. Bell. When I hung up, the hallway was silent except for rain ticking against the stairwell window. Claire stared at me as if she had just discovered a locked room inside a house she thought she owned. What debt? She asked again. The one that helped save the house. Dad said the house was clear except for normal bills. Dad says a lot of things. Her eyes filled, but anger reached her first. Why didn't you tell me? That question showed me exactly who she was in that moment. Not clueless, not evil, worse, selectively blind. She had wanted the house badly enough not to ask what it cost, and now she wanted me to apologize for the price tag. You didn't ask before taking it, I said. She looked away. For 1 second, I thought she might finally say the thing that couldn't fix anything, but could at least be true. I'm sorry. Instead, she whispered, Dad said you'd make yourself the victim. I nodded once. Then let Dad explain the loan. I closed the door gently, not slammed, gently. Somehow, that felt louder. After that night, the house became a storm I no longer lived inside. The notices came faster. Insurance complications, loan review, past due amounts Dad had hidden from Claire, taxes due sooner than she expected, maintenance bills she assumed were handled because they had always been handled. Then the formal notice from the bank reached the house. Claire called me 11 times in one afternoon. I was at work, presenting a routing system, and my phone kept buzzing in my pocket. Her first voicemail was almost calm. Daniel, call me. There's something from the bank, and I think they made a mistake. The second wasn't calm at all. Why is there a loan on my house? My house. I listened to that phrase twice, not because it hurt, but because it clarified everything. Dad's voicemail came last. No command this time. Fear had worn the authority out of his voice. Son, we need to talk. There are things you didn't tell us. Things I didn't tell them. Not things they never asked. Not things they signed without reading. Things I didn't tell them. Marcus prepared a formal response. It stated that I had vacated the property according to the notice delivered by Howard and Claire Mercer. It stated I had no ownership interest. It stated I would not continue voluntary household management or informal financial support. It requested that all future property matters go through counsel. Attached were the eviction notice, the quitclaim deed, the loan documents, and my payment history. 7 years of proof. 7 years of invisibility, printed line by line. Are you ready for them to receive this? Marcus asked. I thought about the kitchen table, the rain, Claire's silence, my father telling me it was time to stand on my own 2 feet. Yes, I said. 3 weeks after I moved out, Dad came to my apartment building. I saw him through the front glass before he saw me. He looked older, but not sorry, just smaller somehow. His coat was wet from the rain, and for a second I saw the father who taught me to patch a tire, the father who used to lift me onto his shoulders at county fairs before grief hardened him and selfishness finished the job. Love does not vanish just because it becomes unsafe. That is the cruelest part. I opened the door but did not invite him upstairs. You changed your number? He asked. No. You don't answer. No. His jaw tightened. Your sister is in trouble. Claire owns the house. Don't be cold. That almost pulled me back. Don't be cold meant don't protect yourself. Don't be selfish meant keep sacrificing. Don't make this ugly meant accept the ugliness quietly so they would not have to see it. What do you need? I asked. He exhaled like I was finally being reasonable. Talk to the bank. Tell them you'll keep paying until we figure it out. No. He stared at me. Daniel, no. After everything I've done for you? The words landed between us like something dead. I waited for pain. It came, but less than I expected. Maybe because the lie was too large to fit inside me anymore. You gave my home to Claire on my birthday, I said. His face flushed. It was never your home. There it was, the cleanest version of the truth. I nodded slowly. Then it was never my debt to carry alone. For once, he had no sentence ready. I took Marcus's letter from my coat pocket and placed it in his hand. You wanted the house, I said. Now you have everything that comes with it. His fingers closed around the paper. You'd let your own family lose everything? I looked at him and thought of every night I had moved money between accounts so his pride could survive another month. Every bill hidden, every insult swallowed, every time Claire called me lucky because she never saw the cost of my staying. No, I said. I already stopped you from losing everything. For 7 years. You just mistook that for nothing. His face changed, not into apology, but something cracked. Maybe recognition, maybe fear. Then he reached for the last weapon he had. Your mother would be ashamed. For years, that would have destroyed me. That night, it didn't. Mom would have read the papers before signing, I said. Then I opened the door for him to leave. The house did not disappear overnight. Life is rarely that cinematic. There were negotiations, extensions, legal letters, a failed refinance, and a forced sale attempt that dragged for months. Claire had to move out. Dad moved into a small rental near the highway. Mason vanished when he realized the house came with debt instead of free equity. The property sold under pressure, not at the price they imagined, and the proceeds went first to obligations they had ignored because they did not understand them. Marcus negotiated my release and partial reimbursement from the closing. It was far less than I had poured into that place, but enough to close the loan and close the chapter. Claire told relatives I had ruined her life. Dad told people I had become greedy. Some believed them, some didn't. I stopped auditioning for the role of misunderstood good son. That freedom felt strange at first, almost lonely. Then it felt clean. For a while, guilt still came in small waves. When Dad's birthday came, I almost called. When Claire posted vague quotes about betrayal, my thumb hovered over the screen. When a cousin texted, "Your mom would want peace," I nearly explained everything. But peace built on my silence had never been peace. It had been storage, a place where everyone else put what they refused to carry. So I built new habits. I accepted the promotion I had postponed twice because Dad needed me around. I bought a real bed. I learned to cook for one without feeling like I had failed to feed a household. I went to therapy, which I used to think was for people with worse problems than mine, until I understood that minimizing pain is one of the ways pain survives. My therapist once asked, "What did you lose when you left the house?" I said, "My family." Then, after a long silence, I said, "No, the illusion of one." That was the grief. Not losing people who loved me well, losing the fantasy that if I loved them hard enough, they would become those people. Almost a year later, Claire called from a number I didn't recognize. Her voice was tired without performance. "I'm not calling to fight," she said. I waited. "Dad told me you barely helped with the house. He said he carried most of it." I closed my eyes. Of course he did. "You believed him because it benefited you," I said. She inhaled sharply, but she didn't deny it. That was new. "I'm sorry," she said. It wasn't enough. Apologies rarely are when the damage has roots. But it was something. Maybe the first honest thing she had given me in years. "I hope you build a better life, Claire," I said. "I mean that. Do you forgive me?" There it was. The question people ask when they want your healing to become their permission slip. I thought carefully before answering. "I'm not carrying anger every day," I said, "but I'm not reopening the door." She cried softly. I did not comfort her. That may sound cruel unless you have been the family comforter your whole life. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is let someone else feel the full weight of what they did without rushing in to soften it. Dad never apologized. Last I heard, he still tells people I betrayed him over money. Maybe he believes it. People like my father edit memory until it protects them. I used to need him to understand. Now I don't. Looking back, the envelope on my birthday was not the day I lost my home. It was the day the lie became visible. I had been homeless inside that family long before I packed a single box. I had lived there as a function, not a son, a payer of bills, a holder of secrets, a shock absorber for other people's choices. When they handed me eviction papers, they thought they were taking my place from me. They didn't know they were handing me proof. Proof that I could stop. Proof that love without respect is just another debt. I didn't scream. I didn't expose them online. I didn't beg relatives to take my side. I packed my things in the rain, redirected my mail, hired a lawyer, and let the system reveal what my words never could. That was my quiet revenge. Not watching them panic, not seeing the house become a burden in their hands. The revenge was becoming a man they could no longer use. My father handed me eviction papers on my birthday and gave the house to my sister. I walked away in silence, and for the first time in my life, the silence belonged to me.